What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful, delicious, smoky, crispy, amazing, scratch-made corned beef hash. Well, I guess technically it's pastrami hash. Coming up. This is a brisket. Pat it dry. What I got here is a pretty ugly looking USDA prime brisket. Picked this up at my local grocery store, and as you can see, it's looking kind of weird. Kind of an odd shape, but hey, it's gonna be good. So we're gonna start by trimming this up the way we always do, by removing this big chunk of decal fat on the back. Slim pickings at the grocery store today. Usually I would try to find one without this much decal fat. Clean up this silver skin on the backside. Just gonna shave this weird little flat down a little bit. And when it comes to making corned beef, you could probably use whatever cut you like. You know, if you don't want to make a bunch, I'm sure a chuck roast would work really well, but brisket is traditional, and it does not take much convincing for me to cook a brisket. I'll tell you what. Take some of this fat off this side while we're here. Just trying our best to make this thing look as good as possible. And as always, I've trimmed many briskets on this channel. I've done a lot more detailed tutorials, so if you want to learn more about that, you can check out the videos. And once this backside is looking a little bit better, we're gonna flip it over. We're gonna take out this big pocket of fat between the two muscles. A lot of people forget to do that. Ooh. And then we'll start taking down this fat cap a little bit. A lot of fat on this brisket. Gonna end up with a bunch of tallow today, folks. Chud scrape. Trying to move somewhat quickly because it is like 90 degrees out here today. And of course my AC is broken, so I'm a sweaty boy. But at this point we're gonna take down this flat. This is sitting a little tall. Just gonna flatten this out a little bit, make this brisket a little bit more aerodynamic. Looking good. Now all we need to do is take care of this thin bit and give this thing a little bit more shape. Save that for making some burgers. Taper all these edges. And there we go. Beautiful brisket. Honestly, for how ugly it looked coming out of the cryovac, that shaped up quite nicely. And it's a lot smaller, which means it'll brine and cook all that much quicker. Speaking of which, let's make a brine. Starting with 2 quarts of water. And once up to a boil, we're gonna go in with some salt, some brown sugar, some pink curing salt, and some pickling spice. You can obviously make your own. I've done that in plenty of pastrami videos before, but I figured this would just make things a little bit easier. And just make sure everything is nicely dissolved and all those flavors have really given us all they got. I'm also gonna go ahead and throw some garlic in there too, just for good measure. And once everything is nicely dissolved, into our vessel we go. Whew. Smelling good already. And then to make up the rest of our 1 gallon water weight, we're going in with some ice water just to make sure this is cooled down. And the salt, sugar, pink salt ratio is all based on the amount of water, not the amount of weight. So as long as you have enough brine to submerge your brisket, you got nothing to worry about. And now in we go with our brisket. Now at this point, you could just leave this in the brine for 7 to 14 days, or you could expedite it like I'm gonna do by busting out the old injector here. So what I'm gonna do is pop this in here so I don't get any seeds or anything sucked up into the injector. That can clog things up. And we're just gonna go around and pump this thing full, trying to get as much of that in there as possible just to help speed things along. Highly recommend this step. This turns it from a 2-weeker into a 3-day process. One day I'll test it because I'm sure you could get away with less time than that. Looking good, feeling nice and heavy already. So now I'm gonna flip it over, making sure that meat side is exposed to all that lovely brine, and we're gonna let this thing cure away for the next few days. 3 days later, this corned beef has come out of the brine, and I gave a nice rinse in some cold water to remove any of the excess pickling spice on the outside. Clearly I didn't get it all, but that's fine. And I also let it soak in some water for about 10-20 minutes just to purge off any extra salt that may be on the exterior of this thing. And if you make this recipe and it comes out too salty, you can either reduce the salt in the brine, or you could soak it for a good hour or 2 at this point. I know a lot of people like to do that. And typically at this point with the corned beef, this would be boiled, along with some other spices, probably some more garlic in there as well. But to be honest, I just don't have it in me to boil a beautiful brisket like this. It just seems rude with all these smokers around. So I am in fact gonna smoke this corned beef, which I know is gonna light up the comment section, because if you smoke corned beef, it is then considered pastrami. So yeah, technically I'm making pastrami hash, not corned beef hash, but that just sounds better to me. So let's get this thing seasoned up. And much like a regular pastrami, this thing is already fully flavored all the way through from that brine, the salt, the sugar, the pickling spice, and the garlic. And you can definitely tell that it's been cured because the color is much different at this point. So we don't need to add any more salt to this thing, but I do want a nice bark on there. So I'm gonna add some 16 mesh black pepper. On sale now at shopchuds.com. Oh yeah, just a nice healthy coating folks. This may look like it's a whole bunch of black pepper, and it is, but it's pre-ground, so it's really not all that spicy. And two, this thing is gonna cook for the next 12 hours, so any harsh notes you'd get from black pepper will definitely be toned down. Flip it over. And if I was doing a typical pastrami, I would make a bit more of a complex rub, probably with some mustard, garlic, and a whole bunch more coriander. But I think we're gonna keep it pretty simple today. And please, folks, don't forget the sides. Come on. You know what? I am feeling a little frisky today. Let's go on with a little garlic powder too. Why not? Let's fire up the pit.
Snake, snake, snake!
And on the pit we go. Got a nice post oak fire rocking around 250 degrees-ish. And we're gonna cook this thing just like we would any other brisket or pastrami. Fat cap up, fatty side toward the fire. Probably gonna keep it nice and smoky around 250 for the first few hours. Then we'll bump it up to around 275 and check back in a little bit. 15 hours later, this little corned beef pastrami is coming off the pit and looking absolutely lovely. Beautiful bark on there, feeling nice and tender. And I did a pretty typical brisket cook on this. Started out at 250 for the first few hours, then bumped it up to 275 until this thing hit an internal temp of about 175, 180. Gave it the old trusty foil boat and let it carry up to about 200 degrees, which is where it's rocking right now. Feeling very nice. And yeah, this thing took a while. Now that may be because of the water weight, because this thing has been brined after all. Maybe it's the fact that I fell asleep for a while, let the fire die completely, which is why it's now 6 in the morning. But either way, this thing is looking great, feeling nice and tender, beautiful bark on there. Ooh, nice and soft. So now into my oven, this goes at 150 degrees overnight, well, over morning, for a nice long heated rest, and then we'll slice on in. And after a nice long heated rest, this thing is coming out of the oven and looking absolutely fantastic. Is a 10 to 12 hour heated rest necessary for a pastrami or a corned beef? Probably not, but ooh, it is good practice. And this thing is feeling very nice and jiggly, nice and tender. Oops, oh no, don't mind if I do. Beautiful, loving the bark on there, feeling very nice and tender, nice and floppy. Let's slice into this thing and see how it looks, shall we? Ooh, beautiful stuff, lovely color. Brine definitely made its way all the way through, looking nice and tender, nice and floppy, nice and juicy. Ooh, smelling incredible, by the way. I can't help myself. I gotta go for a burn end. Yeah, I'd say that's looking pretty much perfect. Gotta love that. Oh my God. That is so good. So floral, nice and salty, a little bit of sweet. It's got that classic pastrami flavor to it. Nicely marbled, beautiful fat render on there, and just, ooh, gotta say this one came out really well. Let's get a slice of fatty real quick, shall we? I mean, come on, folks. What's not to like about that? Beautiful. Woo. If you've never made a juicy pastrami and or smoked corned beef, whatever you want to call it, I highly recommend it. Nice and floppy. I mean, just look how juicy that is. The bark is beautiful, nice and fatty. Oh, I'm very excited. Definitely quite salty. It's right on that level of being perfectly salted. Any more salt would really be too much. So if you're more sensitive than me, which you likely are, I'm a big salt fiend, then you may want to cut it back by 20, 30 grams or so. Or soak it. That truly is phenomenal though. Little pre-taste test. And there's just something so pretty about that red color, beautiful bark, nice and juicy. Oh, love it. Now, we could go ahead and make some corned beef hash right out of this right now, but I'm gonna chill this down so we can get a really nice haché in that classic cubed up corned beef look. But while I'm here, I'm definitely gonna enjoy a few of these because corned beef hash is what you do with leftover pastrami, so I'm gonna enjoy this tonight. Oh, so good. Beautiful pile of meat. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up, pop it in the fridge, and we'll check back in later. So what I got here is some Yukon Gold potatoes. I peeled them, quartered them, and boiled them for about 10-15 minutes. Definitely not cooked all the way through. Not like you would if you were making mashed potatoes, but just enough to cook them about halfway. That way we can get a nice chop on them, which is what we're gonna do now. Just a simple rough chop on these. And I suppose how much you chop them is completely up to you. If you wanted to throw these through a potato ricer, get that kind of consistency, you could totally do that. But I'm just gonna go for like a little 1/4-inch dice. I think a little irregularity in this is gonna work out great for us at the end. Get some different textures. Just like that is looking good to me. Some nice chunkage. And next up, our now chilled corned beef / pastrami. Let me go from this side. And we're just gonna do the same thing. Looking good to me. Nice marbling on that, I tell ya. Do some fatty and we'll do some lean as well. And now we hache this as well. This is a little bit easier because it's cold. I'm gonna go for some nice little cubes. Oh, beautiful stuff. Smelling so good. Pastrami is so good cold. Just melts in your mouth. So now into a much bigger bowl, we're gonna go in with our potatoes, as well as all of our beautiful corned beef. Definitely just kind of eyeballing these ratios here, folks. And we can't forget our sweated down buttery onions and garlic. Add a little extra flavor to the party. And we're just gonna get that all nice and mixed up. Oh, smells so good. Buttery, potatoey, smoky, beefy. And there you have it, folks. I think that's a pretty good potato to meat ratio. And I kind of want to mix this a little bit. It's a little bit more cohesive. Sticks together a little bit better. Beautiful. And at this point, everything is fully cooked, so go ahead and give it a little bit of a taste. And as salty as that pastrami is, those potatoes still need a pinch. So just gonna go in with a little bit of that, but we don't need any more black pepper, I'll tell you that much. Just taste and adjust. Now, typically at this stage when making corned beef hash, you would take some of this and throw it into a small saute pan or right on a flat top, but I was thinking about it earlier, and today I wanna try something a little bit different, which is bust out the burger press. A little bit of patty wax down, grab about the burger equivalent of a ½ pound, something like that. Ooh, holding together nice so far. Patty paper right on top, and then we smush. Ooh, don't want to squeeze too hard because then some of the juices might start running out. All right, let's see if we can get this thing out. Oh, perfect. Very nice. I think that should give us a very nice presentation and also make it real easy to flip. But I suppose we will find out. Very nice. Tell you what, you make a bunch of these, chill them down in the fridge, then vac seal them. It'll make for a pretty quick little corned beef hash breakfast. Beautiful. Now I'm gonna pop these into the freezer for like 10 minutes just to firm up a little bit to make them a little easier to transfer to the hot flat top. All right, folks, we got our Chud press here heating up, and after just a little chill, these things are nice and firm, much easier to work with. Pretty happy with how these are looking so far. It's like a little potato corned beef cheeseburger. Very cool. But I got this thing nice and toasty, right around 600 degrees at the moment. And although I know it probably doesn't need it, I'm gonna go down with a little butter. And then on with our patty. Woo, just a little pressure. I'm not gonna really smash it, just like a little steak weight or something. And after just a couple of minutes here, ooh, looking good to me. Now we got this thing right around 350. We'll see if that makes a big difference. Ooh. Yeah, I definitely think gentle heat is the way to go on these. Ah, love it. She's just there, waiting, as always. Oh, would you just look at it, folks? I mean, come on. All right, folks, it's time to plate up, except I don't feel like using a plate today. Ooh. Looking good. And of course, we're gonna top this with a lovely poached egg. Just, ooh. Beautiful stuff. Give that a little drizzle of some hot sauce. And for a little color and some freshness, we got some green onions going right on top. Woo, wake me up to that any day of the week, folks. On second thought, I think we're gonna stack these up. Woo, that's what I'm talking about, folks. How's that for a barbecue brunch item? I mean, what's not to like about this, folks? We got crispy potatoes, some nice sauteed onions, some beautiful smoky corned beef with theoretically a perfectly poached egg right on top. Oh, I gotta dive in. Not gonna lie, folks, it's not the most attractive looking thing in the world, but you know all the flavor is gonna be in there. Ooh, oops. Oh, goodness. Runny yolk, little pastrami. Come on, let's give this a try, shall we? Oh yeah. That is phenomenal. Oh, that yolk on there. Yes, please. The double stack is definitely the way to go. You just get those crispy little potatoes in there, the onions and the garlic, and that pastrami smokiness. I mean, what's not to like here, folks? Come on. Oh yeah, definitely keeping this one around. Oh, the flavor. It's so meaty. And the fact that you get the smokiness plus like that crispy Maillard reaction on the outside. Nothing wrong with that. All the floral notes from the brine on that pastrami and that cured meat flavor. You don't need any cheese. That is so good. So good. It's just another way to eat meat and potatoes, folks. You know, it's just one of life's simple pleasures. Whether you get it out of a can or go to great lengths to make your own from scratch, gotta love corned beef hash. So meaty, so potatoey. Makes for a great meal. But without further ado, folks, I think it's time for the official taste test. Ooh. That's a lot. There we go. Get those green onions out of there. Alright, y'all, that is it. That is to make my version of some absolutely fantastic smoky corned beef hash. I highly recommend giving this one a try, whether you use some actual corned beef, some pastrami, or just some leftover brisket. No matter what you got, this recipe is going to come out great. I'm definitely going to be making this again, and I'm super glad to have it in my barbecue arsenal. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!